Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here to the Racer Insider Show. We are to episode 6. I'm Travis Turner. That is Lindy Suter, and it is a huge week for Racer basketball. They're coming off a great win over the weekend, a neutral court win against a very good Akron team. Lindy and I will discuss in a little bit. There's a chance that is as good a non-conference win as the Missouri Valley Conference has so far, and it was, for those of you that watched it, it was a beautiful show. The numbers are even prettier than that. When you put 115 on the board and you do it in the style that they did, I think that leaves kind of a lasting impact. But we've talked all season about the offensive arsenal, and you saw just about every bit of it on display in that one. They've got Drake coming calling in the Missouri Valley Conference opener. If you're trying to win a conference championship, they're all big. There are no small games en route to a title, and game 1 is just as important as game 20, certainly getting off on the right foot. So we'll see what that looks like. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. But first, we want to remind you that we are brought to you by our friends at the Suter Insurance Group, 270-753-5842, online at SuterINSgroup.com. That is SuterINSgroup.com. Mr. Suter, I will let you take it away talking about your great insurance group.
Well, actually, of course, by now, probably everybody knows we offer auto, homeowners, health insurance, Medicare supplements, pretty much all lines. But there's also another kind of insurance that we offer, and we actually write quite a bit of it, and it is for like camps and special events. And so there's anybody out there that ever has a camp, or they have an instruction facility like my good buddy Travis is fixing to get going. And,
how about that?
Yeah. So just, if you do have a special event, hole-in-one, whatever it is, camps, give us a call. Kristen's got a good, she's been working on it now for 3 years. And so we've got a really good market for it.
Well, and she's doing a great job for me, Lindy, and certainly glad to have the Suter Insurance Group there to take care of us. And I guess, Lindy, I should mention, as long as we're advertising things, it will be open by appointment only. But Brannon Farms Barrels, just north of Puryear, Tennessee, going to have a great indoor baseball facility there offering baseball instruction. And we'll have a Facebook presence soon. And when we've got more information about how to contact us about lessons, we'll share that with you right here.
Yes, and also I want to say Kristen's actually my niece. I don't know if some people don't know that. Kristen Krause, she sits on the right over there behind the bench. She's hard to miss, and big Racer fan.
Yeah, lifelong, right? I mean, literally lifelong.
Grew up with it, that's for sure.
Well, and I know, like you, she was thrilled with what she saw on Saturday, Lindy. Just a remarkable offensive performance. 115-100 was the final. 68 of those 115 points coming in the second half. Your thoughts on what you saw, my friend?
And it almost makes you speechless, Travis. I mean, 68 points in the second half. I don't know how you could play any better than that against a quality opponent. I mean, this wasn't against, Bethel or a lower level team. This was against a top 50 ranked team in the nation, and you got to put 68 points on them in the second half. And so many guys had great performances in that game. I know I've heard Coach Miller discuss last week on his coach's show how in a game that every single player made a play, contributed to the victory.
Right.
And that's not just your starting 5. That's all 11 of them that play. And you could say that again on Saturday. And I tell you what, if the team plays like that, they're going to be tough. And what it proved to me was, and looking back on it, you wonder, okay, how are you going to compete against those top 50 teams? How do we match up? Do you have a chance to beat them? Do you have the talent to beat them? Can you do it? And now we have proven really twice that we do have the ability and the talent to beat a top 50 basketball team. And I think you mentioned it earlier. Our 2 victories over George Washington and Akron are actually the 2 best victories in the Missouri Valley Conference this season. And then
because I know the other one you liked was SIU at High Point, right?
Yes, yeah, that was a good win, and that brings me to the Missouri Valley Conference and how it's shaping up early going into it now that we've started it. And actually, Belmont with a 2-0 record, of course, Illinois, Chicago at home, and Evansville away. That's a typical Belmont start. I don't know. One of these years, maybe they'll be at Northern Iowa and at Drake to start the dang season off. But they give them. It happens every year, and it happened in the OVC too. I don't know what it is about old Belmont, but anyway, I think SIU's been a surprise team. I've watched them play eyeball contest. I'd definitely put the Racers number one, Northern Iowa right there with us, and then I'd probably go with Belmont and SIU as the top four, and then maybe Bradley, Illinois State in there too. Drake, we'll find out Thursday night.
Well, they're an interesting club, and we'll get to them in a little bit. They're very good offensively again. At least they have been against the schedule they played to date. Lindy, you've been talking to me about this SIU club for a while, and they also have a terrific loss in overtime at Richmond, because that's a really good Spiders club as usual there.
Yes, they are, and they're playing awful hard. That coach is a good coach. I mean, he was a heck of a coach at Wright State before he took the SIU job a couple of years ago. And, he's put a nice team together. And I expect that rivalry between the Racers and the Salukis to heat up. It's actually going to be a game that's going to be played pretty soon, actually, when you look at the calendar. So, but
yeah, as we mentioned, pursuing a championship, they're all huge. I don't care what part of the calendar they take place in.
Yeah, Thursday night, which we'll talk about, but that's a huge game. I mean, it's Drake. I really want to beat them. I really want to beat them bad.
Let's go back to the Akron contest. And as you mentioned, when you score 115 points, there are a lot of guys that are putting the ball in the basket, a lot of guys creating shots, a lot of guys getting things done. But it was almost a perfect game for Lane Taylor, and one I know you enjoyed watching, because the shot making that we saw, the 6 threes the other night, and that was something that you fell in love watching, his ability to make shots from all over the floor when he was at Central Arkansas. In his first year in college basketball, he also continued to roll in the assist to turnover category, 8 assists to 0 turnovers. I think that brings the season total to 49 assists, just 11 turnovers. But you knew he could shoot the basketball that well. What a performance for Lane against the Zips.
Yeah, definitely. Lane's been playing solid all year. His 3-point shot's the only thing that's been kind of missing. And me and you both had watched enough film on him last year to know that he had a better shot than that. And I think the recovery from his shoulder surgery that he had during the off season, I think that's finally getting to be 100%. But what a performance. I mean, you go back in the record books to find an offensive performance where you hit, what was he from 3-point range?
I think he was 6 of 8 or 6 of 9.
6 of 8 from 3-point range, and you have 8 assists. I mean, that's 18 points, 8 assists, no turnovers. So you didn't give the other team zip, nothing.
Yeah, just beautiful.
Just a really great game. But God, there was so many guys that played good. Whew, so many guys. When you're hitting that three,
18 of 32.
18 of 32, that's hard to beat. Now let's hope we saved a few of them for tomorrow night.
Well, and Lindy, what we're seeing, of course, is obviously Mason Miller has been every bit the shooter he was advertised as. Obviously, a tough year for him physically last year at Creighton, but people knew he had made 45% of his threes the year before. He's at 50%. Braden Shorter's a dangerous weapon. That's what he does, and he hasn't shot it as well as I think he will, but that's a weapon that teams have to respect all the time. And to see Lane make shots the way that he did, Javon Jackson is shooting the three better than at any point in his career. And then when people have the multi-talented 6'8", 6'9" forward duo of Trainer and Domon make 7 of 8 threes. JJ was 3 of 4. Roman was 4 of 4. That's a problem for the opponent.
Yeah, that's like my buddy said up in Louisville. They said it's 2 NBA guys right there hitting threes. Domon and Trainer. Of course, he followed JJ up at Louisville and fell in love with him there. And JJ's really coming on. He's one of those quiet guys. He's not really in the limelight like the rest of them, but boy, he quietly gets the job done. And boy, that with both of them being able to knock down threes, you're talking about causing the defense some issues. And I noticed in the Akron game, we really moved that ball around. We had a lot of open threes.
Yeah, so the ball movement easily the best of the season.
Yes, no doubt.
Lindy, you mentioned the what happens when they shoot it that well. And one thing that I'll always want people to understand is, yes, efficiency is going to go up and down. When volume is there, we keep telling you about shot volume. When shot volume is there and it's coupled with efficiency, which is what you had the other day against Akron, the 18 of 32, what that means is the Racers scored 54 points on 32 shots. That is running up in the 1.6, 1.7 range, and anything over 1.3 is unbelievable. You get up to a 1.5 per shot, you're just going to destroy people. If you were at 2, you're basically playing perfect basketball. To throw in 17 made free throws, 71 points from my favorite area, threes and frees. Akron was 7 of 18 from 3, which is not bad percentage-wise, but you're down 14 attempts. You're down 11 makes. They were 19 of 25 at the foul line, but it's only 40 in 3 and free. The Racers outscored them by 31 from behind those two critical lines. And, Lindy, even when they turned it over 18 times and gave up 15 offensive rebounds, you can't beat a team when they put 71 on the board on threes and frees.
No, I agree with you totally, Travis. I love that. I love that philosophy. I really do.
Well, and as we begin to look toward Drake and entering Missouri Valley play, I'll tell you this, because, again, you don't expect to shoot 18 of 32. Yeah. And at some point, I think defenses are going to have to turn themselves a little bit. You know, we've talked about the job the Racers do trying to defend the three-point shot. Tell you all the time it's a hallmark of what the women's team does. Yes, we've talked about they're going to give up some twos. They're going to give up a fairly high percentage of shooting in twos, but part of that is because of how defenses are turned and geared, what they're trying to take away. Understand, when you see teams attack into the lane, into the basket, if there's not a lot of help, there may be a reason for that. You know, it's popular with broadcasters of a certain age. Oh, there was no help there. Well, there's a reason for that. Yeah. Because if you leave the guy standing over there in the corner to come help, that ball handler is going to kick it to that fella in the corner, and the shot he's going to be making is worth 3 rather than 2. That's math, see? So we play the game a little differently today. Ron Miller's club certainly knows what they're doing in that area. But again, the consistency piece, you're not going to make 18 a night, but what they are doing on the season, Lindy, is they are making 11.3 3-point field goals per game. And they're doing it at a 38% clip. They're also getting to the foul line enough that they're making 18.5 free throws a contest. So you're talking about a team that's one of the highest scoring clubs in America. They're averaging over 90 points a game. I think it's 90.45 now. And they are getting in the neighborhood of 53 points a game from threes and frees. People will say, can it hold up? I'll simply say it has.
It has so far. It really has.
If you have the personnel and if you have the plan, and I think what people don't understand sometimes is there's nothing random about the way the Racers are playing. You know, one of the things that we knew Ryan Miller and his staff would bring, if only because he had just been with Greg McDermott at Creighton. If you know Creighton, if you watch Creighton basketball, they run some of the best stuff, some of the best actions in college basketball. You knew the playbook was going to be full. But when you have the personnel that works in the playbook and you play at tempo and you tell your players, hey, guys, we would like to get up, not just random threes, but we'd like to get up at least 25 to 30 good ones tonight. If that's what if they're going to sag on Fred, if they're going to double Fred, if they're going to try to take drives away from us, we want to get in the gap. We want to draw help. We want to kick it, get a good look. We also want to make sure we're attacking through Fred and we're getting to the basket enough that we get to the foul line. If your club can do that, it's not fluke. It's not random. It's what they can do every single night. And being able to hang your hat on that, it's game changing. And I'm just going to say it again. If you bring to town a club that cannot make the three-point shot, then you better be incredibly efficient. You better win on the glass by a large margin. You better be able to win turnovers by a high margin. Threes and frees, they're going to get you.
Amen, brother. Amen. I've been on the 3 thing for a while, and you've been on the free and 3 for a long time now.
This Drake team,
yes.
And we'll see how good they are when they come in to face the Racers. But they are one of the better clubs the Racers will have faced in the 3 and free area. They make 10 threes a game. Okay, they shoot it quite well. They make 15 free throws a night. So the 45 points they generate, not quite as high as the Racers number, but it is something that is to be watched. It's to be concerned. And they've got some guys that are really playing well. Jalen Quinn, formerly of Loyola of Chicago, he has been terrific, scoring it, shooting it. They've got some size there that can play. And they had to do, of course, what the Racers had to do. They had to retool completely. So this modern transfer portal era, a lot of new Bulldogs, but they ain't new to college basketball.
No, and they've been a team. I've noticed they've had some really good performances this year too. And I was thinking the same thing you were thinking when we're, about them being a very good offensive team. So it should be a heck of an offensive show Thursday night. But I like playing those teams that like to try to outscore us.
Well, I think it benefits the Racers greatly. I'll be very clear. If it was me and I had the personnel to do it, we're going to bring that tempo way on down. In fact, probably if there were to be a kryptonite, it would be if Ben McCollum and the Sturts kids showed back up in Des Moines with the ability to spread the floor, let him handle it for 24 seconds and make a play with about 4 or 5 left on the shot clock, as they did so effectively last year. I think if you do get into a foot race, you get into a sprint with the Racers, you're going to try to outscore them. Tend to think that's gonna end well for the boys in Navy and Gold.
Yeah, good luck to them. And talking about a game that would be entertaining to go to. I mean,
one would expect
this one should be circled right here. This game should be a must to go see for sure, especially now in the conference season. And I mean, you can't just because it's December the 17th. I mean,
right.
If this game was on February the 17th, it'd be considered just a monster game. It's just as big a monster game Thursday night that it would be in February.
Well, I think absolutely you're right. And as far as must-see games, these guys scored 115 points on Saturday. Aren't they all must-see at this point?
I think so. Entertaining basketball. It really is. And they all play hard, too. I mean, and man, I just love Lane Taylor's enthusiasm for the game. I mean, I think it just rubs off. And, man, to hear Coach Miller talk about him being a coach on the floor and all the good things, man, it's really good to see him really clicking, because that can really make a difference on what our ceiling is.
Well, and your favorite hashtag on social media has always been winner, right?
Yeah, and you can just tell he wants to win, and all of them. That's what I see in all of them, and that's what I've said just about every podcast. The thing that keeps amazing me the most in this NIL era is how unselfish this group is. How unselfish they are. There's no egos, looks like it's involved. Everybody's got one common goal. That's to win.
Well, I think something else we saw, Lindy, and this is also something I think that is always fair to wonder about in this era. And I think we see it happen to the negative a lot of places when you don't have a deep cohesion built on continuity that hey, we've got 7 guys that have been here for 3 years or whatever. And look, let's not pretend, once upon a time, the reason you came to Murray State was to wear Murray State.
Right.
Then we kind of graduated into an era in college basketball where you might be there to play for a particular coach.
Yes.
Now, look, it is what it is. There's a chance you're here because the offer was right. Okay. I mean, that's just so. Can you hold together if there's a moment where things get hard? And you and I talked a lot off program during the trip to the Caymans and the Hard Knocks loss against Middle Tennessee, just kind of getting thrown around on the glass, and that one getting manhandled in the half court and in the full court, really, by McNeese's defense. They just sort of throttled them and choked them out there in that first half. And to me, that's where it's easy to ask questions about groups thrown together.
Right.
It's gotten tough. Doubt begins to creep in. Now there's some criticism. Are we going to start to point fingers? Are we going to go each our separate way and just worry about getting mine? That didn't happen. They did respond with a huge win against George Washington. I think that trip, if they win the Missouri Valley, will ultimately have been the most important moment in their season. It's always about response. You get knocked down, will you get back up? These fellas did.
Yes, they sure did, and that's a great quality to have, and it's liable to happen again. I mean, there's, like Coach Miller said, there's just peaks and valleys to the season. You want to make sure you're here at the end of the season, and you know that's the way you want your team to be.
Something else that struck me, Lindy, when I was looking at other Missouri Valley teams, because on the men's side, there have been a lot of clubs that have had a really solid non-conference. The challenge, of course, is outside of our computer rankings. And then, you know, I think one of the things you and I always want to do is look and see how much has this team been tested away from home. And that's one thing I'll say about Drake. Drake has spent a lot of time at the Knapp Center in the non-con. But that's always kind of an interesting thing is where did they win and who did they win against? But again, in the non-conference, some teams are better than we expected, and you need to have laid eyeballs on a lot of stuff. But I can enter and say I think there are a lot of teams that you're going to need to play well to win in this league, and that should always be the case in your conference. But the thing that just keeps striking me about the Racers, and you talked about it from the jump today, and we've been talking about it all year, I can't find a roster that even begins to approach the depth of talent and weaponry that this Murray State team has.
I agree with you, Travis. I was talking to one of my buddies last night. I said, this is probably the first year ever that by this time of the season, that I haven't questioned a coach about who's been playing the most minutes or who should be in the game and who shouldn't be in the game. I mean, there's always been one guy that I thought should be playing and one guy that shouldn't be playing. And this year, you don't question any substitutions because it's not fall off, you know. So that just goes to show you right there. I mean, it's you know, so many guys when you think about it. I mean, that can just off the bench. I mean, there's a starting five on the bench, a competitive starting five on the bench.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
really, it is. You know, and that's such a great thing to have, especially in this league.
Well, and it's probably in terms of staying sharp, when you have to go against guys as good as the second group is. I mean, there's, you know, even in practice, there's not going to be a lot of days off. And we talked about the consistency piece because, again, it's fair for anybody to say, well, do you really believe they can continue to make 11 threes a game? For the record, I do. They have to take enough of them to get there. But the thing about this club is if an opponent goes to take away the triple, and I would, simply because the three is worth so much. But if you go away from double teaming Fred King's probably going to get 30.
Yeah, he's going to score.
And you have guys who can get to the basket. They can get to the rim and finish. They can get to the foul line. And it's the total diversity of the weaponry in the roster. And it takes us back to something that Coach Edgar shared with you after about 5 or 6 games. He said, Lindy, they got all the right parts that fit right together.
Yeah. He actually texted me and says, you need to get online and find out what the odds are of the Racers winning the Missouri Valley. Maybe place a $1 bet on it.
Well, I really believe the deeper we go, Vegas is not going to want any action on that. I think they're going to emerge as a strong favorite, but that's why we got to play the games. That's why, again, Thursday night is so important. And the one thing, again, I want to share with everybody about Drake is these guys to date have made shots, have scored the ball, and that makes them dangerous. If their ceiling was to score 62 points, even at a slowed down tempo, they can't catch the Racers. But if they have a night where they make 18 threes, I don't think Murray State's going to allow that. But plenty of respect for these guys. And Coach Henderson, I think it is, that came in from South Dakota State. He's been a winner. He's a guy that's gotten it done. And obviously we know the high expectations they have in Des Moines for Drake Bulldog basketball every year.
Oh yeah, and they got some fans that's just made a few comments along the way. So I'm just really hoping we can put a good payback on it. I'll hold grudges against the opponent's fans, but
it's not like you to track that kind of chatter.
No, not at all. But how great is it to be anticipating a big conference game against Drake on Thursday night instead of opening up at home against OVC Foe Lindenwood?
Well, it's different.
Reality. That's the reality. So nice to be in a league where every game is just like a rival game. And our fans have got, this is December, like I said earlier, it's December 17th, but get the level up a tad, because we're going to need it tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, and I love this part of the schedule, Lindy. I think that once you've gotten this deep, your club, I mean, Ryan Miller, he knows who he has, and so do the other guys in the league, and obviously sometimes there's a natural break that conference play goes in earnest after Christmas. But I think from a fan perspective, when you go ahead prior to the new year, you have a couple of big ones. And you mentioned Belmont kind of got the soft ease in, but from an excitement standpoint, I like from a conference standpoint, what the Racers see in December.
Oh yeah, I do too. When do we go to Valpo? Is that on Monday or?
Yeah, that's quick.
Quick.
Let me check a look at the schedule here, Lindy. We'll talk about kind of what the guys have got here as we go through the new year. And the other thing about, and I realize students today, it's a little bit different for them in terms of what your class schedule are, and your final schedules are so much online anymore. It's not like it was back in the day. But when you can get through finals and you can get through kind of those lulls in scheduling where you're not, playing with a lot of rhythm, I think to me, that's one of the things when I look at what they did against Akron that's really impressive. And then another natural kind of bump here will be getting through the Christmas holiday. You want guys to be able to celebrate with their families and everything, but you do have to stay prepped and on point. So the Drake game comes on Thursday. That's a 7:00 tip. That's Christmas at the Bank, the teddy bear toss, by the way. The Valpo game is on Sunday, Lindy.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, so that'll be Sunday. That is the 1 p.m. start. Then a little break for Christmas, and on 29th of December, a Monday at 6 p.m., the Salukis come calling.
No, two big. Well, all of them are huge games, but those are two great home Missouri Valley Conference games to start with. Now, like you said, the students, I hate that they're kind of away during this period of time, but a lot of them are not away anymore because they're living out in the apartments around town. But we need all the support from them that we can get during this time, because that's two huge games to be playing while school's actually out.
Well, and you've mentioned Southern Illinois. You tackled the question in one of our episodes about who will the Racers' rival be, the biggest rival, and you think the natural geography and history and the potential there with the Salukis, if these two programs get to fighting for this championship, and you really like this SIU club right now, that could be a good launching pad for it coming up there in the 29th.
Oh, no question about it. And I think they are the rival. They've been a rival for me for several years when we played them, because the big crowd's always there when the Racers and the Salukis. We're in the same television coverage area, which I really like. So you kind of want to be a king of the region. And their fans are a lot like ours. They're very passionate fans over there. They really are. The only thing is they remind me a whole lot of how many miles is it to the east to that place over in Clarksville? We shouldn't have never
66 that 1 year.
It was 66 miles that 1 year. They kind of remind me of each other. There's just a few more of them over in Southern Illinois than there is over in Clarksville.
Well, and I think it's good for the league when you have those sorts of rivalries, and they typically would most naturally emerge from geography. Geography is sometimes something that we've lost as all of these leagues have shifted, but Northern Iowa Drake is good for the league. SIU and Murray certainly would be as well. And obviously the hope for our fan base is that just as they did in the Ohio Valley, that every year the Racers are playing for an MVC title.
Exactly. And I think that's why this year is so important. We've come into the league. We've had our few years. We've got adjusted to the new era of college basketball. And we need to let them know real quick that we're not going to be one of those ones down at the bottom that they brought in 2000, whatever it was, instead of us. They missed on Ja Morant, and the story goes on and on and on. But now I think they know. I guarantee you we have gotten their attention that this program here is not going to be satisfied for anything but the compete at the top. And Nico has proved that supporting them, what's needed, that they're given all the weapons that they need to go out and get the job done, because it's so important at this program.
Lindy, we're gonna close in just a little bit, letting you talk about getting to see some old friends and celebrating the Racer past, and then we'll kind of talk about some stuff going forward. But one thing I wanted to make sure that I mentioned today, and this is a conversation you and I have already had this week, but I wanted to share it with our audience, because when you referenced the new era in college athletics, it made me think of it. I told Lindy the other night on Sunday night, I came into the house and my oldest son had been watching NFL action on CBS. And so I just happened to come in early to middle of a piece that 60 Minutes was done on the amazing transformation of Indiana football, what Curt Cignetti has done there and their administration, their boosters, and what an unbelievable story. And I don't know how many of you have followed college football that closely, but Indiana has been, where football is concerned, one of the great doormats in all of college football. Obviously caught in the Big Ten footprint for years and years and years. You know what Bo Schembechler built at Michigan, what Woody Hayes at Ohio State, and those two Leviathans just continue to build over the years. And then this great expansion of the Big Ten, and it just got harder and harder. And I think I saw a graphic earlier this year during an Indiana game. They have the second most losses in FBS history. So it's been tough for those guys, okay? I had to be a diehard, Lindy, to hang in there with Hoosier football. But, of course, Mark Cuban is an alum. John Mellencamp is an alum. And apparently he's been on the bandwagon all along. But Cignetti has come in. I mean, one of the great press conference lines you'll ever hear. Google me. Cignetti said, hey, check out what I've done. I'm a winner, Lindy. He's a hashtag winner guy. And they have, through the influx of money, it's just been incredible, the talent they brought in, and so much credit, of course, to Cignetti and his staff, because they have assembled the right pieces. They're on the bus, they're in the right seats, and boy, the magic is happening for them as they enter the CFP as the #1 seed. But there was a moment where they were talking with the athletic director, and this is what Lindy and I were chuckling about, because in the last couple of years, about $60 million have gone into that football program, facilities, all the infrastructure that supports them, payroll, whatever. And the 60 Minutes reporter was talking to the athletic director about that reality and just, those stunning numbers and happening in Indiana. And the reporter says to him, well, I know you can change your color scheme and new uniforms and new logos and whatever marketing plans, he says, but nothing beats winning, does it?
Winning.
And the AD said, no, he said, you realize what's possible. He said, you think maybe we should have thought of this winning football games before. And he just laughed. He said, but people want to be a part of it in every way. And he said, it truly is a world, not a game changer, a world changer. And so you talked about the importance of this year and making these inroads towards a championship, and people want to be a part of things, but people want to win. And it is critical, and it is world changing.
Yes, it is. And I want to thank the people that have made that possible here at Murray State, because there's a lot of people, and you've seen it on X, the donations that have been made and all the improvements that are going on. And, we tend to forget about the actual people that are making the donations. And because without them, without them, that's a whole different story, So hats off. We don't know who all of them are, but thank you for playing your part.
And you just hope that momentum continues to build, because my friend here, he does love winning. He does love banner years. He loves championships. He loves rings. And you got to be with some old friends as their great contributions were honored recently on the Bellarmine game weekend. Lindy, if you will, just share a little bit of what you can about being able to reunite with some of your favorite racers.
Well, it was actually, I treasured the Friday night before. It was something I would not trade that experience for very, very many. But it actually started out on Friday night at 6:30. Boat Ride had a game that he was refereeing, I think, over in the Hoop Fest maybe. And so he couldn't bring Godfrey all the way. Mark is a keynote speaker now, very good speaker. he'd been speaking over at a company in Hendersonville that builds big tire, or Henderson, Kentucky, that builds these big tires and stuff. In fact, he was amazed by that. But so it worked out perfect for him. He was able to do that. And then Boatwright gave him a ride over, and I picked him up in Hardin. I picked him up at the four-way, and we took off toward Murray. And we got to the hotel, and then Coach T rolled in, and then Isaac Spencer and his family showed up in the lobby, and then here comes Reese, and here comes Aaron Page, and all of a sudden we had a really nice reunion going, and we went out to one of the local restaurants and got in the back room and probably spent 2 hours together, and then got back to the lobby and spent another hour together and told old stories and recruiting stories, and the best one I've got to tell. I mean, I've got to tell. It's really good. Mark and Coach T were in Mississippi recruiting, and they were off in, out into the kind of the rural area of Mississippi recruiting. And it was a Sunday morning, so Mark and T went to church with them. And so they go to the church because that's where this player's family goes to church, and the player's there. He's at church, and so they pass the offering around. And Mark gets to it. He looks down at it, and it's full of ones. So Mark says, all right, I'm going to pull out a 20. And he gets out his billfold, and all he had was hundreds. He had to pop $100 bill in there. What else am I going to do? It went back around now, brought it up to the preacher. He looked in there, and he saw that $100 bill, and he told him, we're going to pass it around one more time. I just love that story. And then there's another one, but I won't tell it. But so many times, and to hear Ike and Aubrey talk about their time here, and I love their Ike is just so funny. I mean, he was a character when he was here, and he still is, and he has a great looking family. But they were talking about all this, and then Ike looked at him and said, "Yeah, then you Lane Kiffin us." And but it was good, and of course, Coach T being there too. Coach T's 88 years old, Travis. He drove 4.5 hours Friday to get here. I mean, then he wrote, he got here at night and then turned around and drove back. And, such a great man. And I feel him and Joyce have been through a lot. I mean, Joyce, I think, has lost a couple of her children this year to sickness, 2 of them to COVID, actually, and earlier. And, of course, they're real sensitive about that. But just great people. I mean, love them to death. And, to see him and Mark together, that was cool. And then, Boatwright came in later, and it was just to have that whole crew back, because that was a special group for me. You got to realize when Mark got the job, I was 39 years old. I'm 68 now. I was 39 years old, and Mark was 33 or 34 when he got the job. So we naturally became friends. We were so close in age. And so so that period of time, that's when I started the Racer Insider, and Mark was very appreciative. Coaches sometimes are and sometimes they're not. And boy, he was one that always showed his appreciation. I think I put it on Facebook last night, the little note that he wrote me in August of 1997. And almost brought tears to my eyes, just because I know everything that we did together for those 3 years he was here.
Right.
And to be able to stay in contact with him. I mean, it's been really a really neat thing, because he's been all around everywhere. In fact, he's in California now.
Right. Well, Lindy, if anybody ever sees it, they get on your page and sees that note, they will see the roots of his keynote speaker ability, won't they? And his ability to lead men. And I know he was really encouraging to you about the Racer Insider as a product, as a vehicle to cover Racer basketball. And I was just thinking, when you mentioned the 3 years, it's sort of like when you're growing up, and the friends that you play baseball or basketball with, the music that you listen to, things don't necessarily have to happen over 20 years or 30 years to be impactful. It just sometimes things that happen in a very key and pivotal transformational time in your life, and they just lock in. And I think that's why that group has to be so special to you. Yeah.
And, Mark's slogan was big time. When he came in, he's the one that convinced me, hey, this is, we're not going to recruit against the OVC. We're going to recruit against the SEC.
Yeah.
We're going to think that way. That's how we're going to think here. And that's the message we're going to put out. And boy, how it has continued on over the years since he was here. And of course, he's the lucky guy that got to coach that last year in Racer Arena. And we had a lot of memories to talk about there in that last game. And of course, Aubrey and another story that's a good story. What was that? When Mark was recruiting Aubrey, Mark told Aubrey that I'm just recruiting you as a backup. So I hope your expectations are not, other than that. Well, I went to watch their first pickup game when they arrived. I go to Godfrey's office. He says, "What do you think?" I said, "I like that Reese kid." "Oh, Lindy, I recruited him as a backup." I said, "Well, Coach, he's not going to be no backup for long." I said, "You better have a pretty good point guard." But anyway, that was a really good story, and so many of them, though. So many of them, Travis. So many stories for those 3 years. I mean,
yeah, that's it's special to have those memories, and there are so many of them for you after 60 years as a fan of this program. But we hope if we can make schedules align. Coach Gottfried has given his blessing to appear with us here on the Racer Insider Show, so very possible that somewhere in the next few weeks we'll have Mark with us here.
Oh yeah, I just talked to him again last night. He's excited about doing it with us, and I'm looking forward to it because he can talk about his visit here, his experience here, and what he saw that is going on now while he was here, which was quite shocking to him, to be honest with you. And so it'll be interesting. In fact, we'll probably donate, most of the show to that interview, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll set that one aside for him. And of course, as we've told you, we'll soon begin unveiling the Suitor 60 for you as we look back over some of the great players that we've had in the program history, because that's one of the things. Again, we're going to stay current. We're not going to be here 4 or 5 times a week, obviously, but we're going to try to stay current with the current season, what's going on, recap games, look ahead to games, and certainly shine the spotlight on this club. But we've talked about Lindy's history, these 60 years as a fan, and I know it's very important to him to remind us all of this great Racer tradition. Being able to visit with Coach Gottfried will be a big part of that, and reminding you about this Suitor 60, these great players that have made Racer basketball what it is and the standard that these guys are trying to hold up to. They may not know it, but for you as fans that have been around a long time, that's your standard, that championship standard, and exciting to see them begin to take that step coming up on Thursday night.
Yep, it sure is. And that's the first steps. Thursday night, we need to go 1-0. 1-0.
Coach Suitor has spoken, fellas. Go get that done. Lindy, I will give the final 2 words, as always, to you.
Go Racers.